technical glitches. Yes, I think we are live. We are live. Namaste, Pamela Gale Malhotra. A very warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much. I'm very, very pleased to be here. Thank you.
We're going to miss Jerry today in this conversation because he had to be in another place because of some emergency. I'll try and fill in and fit in, which is a tall order, but I shall still endeavor to do that. Looking forward to learning with you, looking forward to inspiring the audience that has joined us in the live stream. And Pamela Gale Malhotra, you are a very inspiring author. And on Sundays, we have a program called the Author Experience, where we invite inspiring authors like you to learn more and to understand the work that you're doing. Pamela, you're also our Karmaveer Global Fellow. You are a Karmaveer Puraskaar and Karmaveer Maharatna recipient awards for your great work that you have been doing to reclaim, rebuild, rewild the nature in your own very beautiful, unique way that you have been endeavoring. So a very warm welcome to the Cool Convos.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
Our honor is ours because this is going to be an absolute brilliant learning experience for us, because we're going to be learning about a very pertinent subject, that is nature. And, we cannot for a moment, for a fraction of the moment, say that we can forget about nature and not keep it in the main focus. Because the minute we do that, we are harming ourselves more, we're harming the generation, we're harming the nature more. So before we get into all of these conversations, Pamela, I would like you to, before I even ask you all the questions, I'd like you to, and before we talk about this wonderful book of yours, From the Heart of the Nature, I'd like you to describe yourself in 7 descriptors. And these descriptors could be nouns, pronouns, adjectives, roles, values, responsibilities that describe you the best. So 7 words that you'd like to describe yourself with. Before we get into the, Q&A and all of that.
Okay, all right. 7 words to describe myself. Stubborn. Stubborn, okay, for sure. My husband would attest to that. A discoverer. I would hope spiritual.
So I would also request you to, unbox the word stubborn and, tell us a little more. Why do you say that you are stubborn, and why would you describe yourself as someone who's stubborn? Because for me, it's a very positive word, but I'll talk to you about that later.
Okay. Well, stubborn because for both in a positive and a negative sense. Okay. The negative sense would be that when I believe something, it is difficult for me to change my belief. But on the other side, I would have used the word researcher as well, because I research what I believe in before I take that on as something that I believe is true. But it was my husband that actually helped me be a researcher. And because of my stubborn nature of believing what I had thought was true in the past, that research led me to revelations that forced me to change my views and my life. And that stubborn aspect of me now, I believe is in a positive sense, because now that I have much more knowledge about subjects than I did in the past, I
Mhm.
can stubbornly hold on to the facts and be able to put those forward with 100% with 100% assurity within myself that what I am saying is the truth, at least the truth as much as I have been able to discern. That would be the positive and the negative of stubborn.
Yeah. Absolutely humble to hear that, because you also described the negative part as well, because to be able to discern yourself and to be able to look into your own negative is in itself a power. And as I would say, and in the Rex Karmaveer parlance, as we say, for me, stubbornness is also focus. To me, stubbornness is also persistence. For me, stubbornness can also be diligence. Stubbornness can be to keep going through the mill, drill and the grill. As you said, you're a researcher, and to substantiate what you are wanting to learn. And in Rex Karmaveer, Mojosh inspiration or inspirator book that is being again being fine-tuned by Jerry, we talk about learning to learn, because the stubbornness that I am not going to give up, I'm going to keep bettering myself and learning, is a great, great power and a quality. Thank you so much. And the second you said is discoverer.
The discovering comes out of the research, but also comes out of an openness to accept new experiences. Whether those experiences are new cultural experiences, new experiences from the point of view of meeting new people, or having different experiences in nature, for example. You have to be a discoverer if you're going to really understand nature and get into the heart of nature. You have to be a discoverer. You have to want to discover nature, and this is where your stubbornness positive aspect would come in. You have to want to discover the heart of nature and have the openness to accept it when it comes, and also discover your own limitations. It's discovering the abilities of other creatures that share the planet with us that can be a very humbling experience, a very joyful experience also, but a very humbling experience when you realize what they have been endowed with by Mother Nature, not just from a physical standpoint, but also from an understanding and a loving and a compassionate and a forgiveness standpoint. I would point to elephants as one of the best examples of that, and the elephant families as one of the best examples to that. So from that point of view, discovering that and discovering the spiritual connection that lies behind nature. Nature is a doorway through which you can discover all types of things about yourself and about the spirit underlying nature and the universe in general. So in that way, I would say I'm a discoverer.
Yeah. And the third descriptor, you said spiritual. You have some more to go. You have to give me 7.
Oh, all right. Well, spiritual, part of that spirituality comes from my Native American roots from my mother's side. And she was always in nature. She loved nature. She loved animals. So from that point of view, she was a very big influence on me and sowed the seeds of love of nature, being in nature, and loving animals very early. And there is, without question, a spirituality of Native Americans, because they recognize that the spirit, that we're all connected one to another. And of course, scientifically, everything they're saying is being backed up from a scientific point of view. But they're taking it a step further, where we're recognizing that the same spirit that animates us is the same spirit that animates all of nature and is underlying all of creation as well, which is why we're all related to one another. And they would refer to everything, including rivers and mountains, etc., as their relatives, brothers and sisters, etc. From another spiritual aspect, it was the awakening and opening to the Vedic culture of India that also draws so much of its resilience, its beauty, its elevation from nature as well. And so from learning and experiencing more in nature, that helped to confirm so many of the beautiful truths, not just of the Native American teachings, but what you find in the heart of the scriptures of all
cultures.
Yes. But in particular, I connected with the Vedic culture, and of course, that was a great deal of influence for my husband, having been raised in that culture. But open to all of the others. So from that point of view, I would say spiritual.
Yeah. And for the audience, I'd like to say and inform them that Anil Malhotra was also the Karmaveer Fellow, Karmaveer Puraskaar and Karmaveer Maharatna recipient, along with Pamela. And he's not with us in body, but he's with us in spirit, as we were just saying. So he is there inspiring you, inspiring us, and inspiring the world with the legacy that he created and the legacy that he's left the world, that is still living in your writings, in your work, in whatever you do. Yes.
So I'm trying.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, at least I'm trying to carry on that legacy. It has fallen to me. It's now my responsibility to protect it and preserve it, and to honor all of the work that he did and everything that he was able to achieve. Because if you want to see someone stubborn, my goodness, my husband, from the positive point of view, was the most stubborn individual I've ever met. And in this respect, I mean someone who was he persevered through everything. And it was his perseverance, his determination that made the sanctuary possible at all.
Right.
Because there were an awful lot of challenges.
I'm sure we're going to talk about all of those. So Pamela, this brings us to the fourth descriptor for you.
Okay, fourth descriptor. Industrious.
Great.
I find it difficult to sit still, even from a computer point of view. Even when I'm on the computer, I have to do something that is creative, that is engaging. For example, I've never played a video game in my life. I think I find that, especially now, time is too precious. So every single moment needs to be used to the best of my ability to produce something positive, to produce something that will help the world, to produce something that will uplift the world and hopefully bring about a better tomorrow for the next generations that come. So in that respect, I would say industrious from that point of view. And it being here in the sanctuary, there's nothing I love more than going out in the sanctuary itself and going all over the place in the sanctuary. Even there's work involved with camera traps and collections and things like that. But so that would be a word I would use for myself.
All right. And that brings us to the fifth descriptor for you, Pamela.
It's hard to describe yourself. It really is.
True. And this innovative, description Jerry has formulated. And, it is a very beautiful way of kind of going inside and finding yourself, because, we're always talking about roles and responsibilities, or we're just talking about things in another way. But, here we are giving you a chance to bring out more learning into who you are really, and also a learning for our audience that is listening in.
Okay. Only problem with it is it sounds a little bit like you're blowing your own horn if you say anything nice.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. And because we're discovering ourselves as well.
Yeah. Okay. I would probably, I am not sure which word. Some people would describe me one way, some people would describe me other way. I would say empathic and or compassionate. Now, compassion, they say, can be a trap, and I can understand that to a degree, although you can be compassionate without getting overly involved. When you're empathic and you're actually feeling the pain and the hurt of, like, an animal caught in a trap, or a person that is undergoing some severe mental or physical or emotional problem, then it hurts even more. And in some respects, it sometimes stops you from being able to help as much as compassion can. So I would say, I would hope that I would be a bit more compassionate than empathic for those reasons. And I describe myself that way because of the wildlife that I've had to care for and the animals I continue to care for. And I feel when people write to me or talk to me, I get a lot of emails from younger kids, in particular, the younger generation. And I feel great compassion for them, because many of them are so frustrated with what is happening in the world, and they want guidance. They want reassurance that things can get better. And you really feel for them when you read the outpouring of their own concerns and emotion and hope. So I would say that would be another word, possibly.
Yeah, and we've got two more to go.
Okay.
Pamela, 6th one and the 7th one.
Okay. Grounded. I would say grounded because there's a bit of a positive and a negative to grounded too. Grounded is kind of like stubborn. Grounded can be, you are so grounded in your desire that you have to have scientific backing for what you're saying, that you can't take that leap into the spheres or into the unknown enough to be able to learn from that or experience that. That I would describe myself in some respects that way in the past. Grounded today would be more like looking at the realities of what we're doing, grounded in those realities. I think it's very important to be grounded that way. It's like grounding yourself by taking off your shoes and putting your feet on Mother Earth and getting grounded by reconnecting with Mother Earth. When you're grounded in that manner, then you can see clearly, and then you can see the path forward often. You can see what you should be doing or helping or how it can be done when you're grounded. So when you're grounded in Mother Nature and you're grounded in the self that is connected to Mother Nature, then from that grounding, you can get massive amounts of inspiration.
True.
And direction. So.
And that brings us to the 7th descriptor, Pamela.
Talkative. Talks too much. I would say I
communicator.
Well, that's a very nice way of putting it.
I would that way.
I do try to communicate, but I would definitely call myself verbose. whenever I, whenever I
Thank you
give,
for being so candid.
well, I learned a long time ago, if you're not honest with yourself, you can't be honest with other people.
Absolutely.
And you can't expect them to be honest with you. If you're going to be hiding behind faces and facades and all of that, then how is anybody going to feel relaxed enough to open themselves up to you? And this is very, very, very important with nature. You can't hide behind faces in nature because, for example, the elephants, they cannot understand our English. I'm talking wild elephants here. Right. They cannot understand our English or the other languages, right, but they sense your vibration. True. They feel your heart, your vibration. Yeah. And when that happens, you can't hide that. So you're communicating through that very special spiritual level again, a vibration. And you can't fake it. Not with wildlife. They're mirrors. They mirror back to us the feelings that we are giving off. And so from that point of view, I could say that I'm a positive communicator, because when I am in nature and attuned with Mother Nature, I am very fortunate that the wildlife are able to trust me enough to come so close to me and allow me such close proximity to them, always making sure that I respect their space, just like you have to respect the space of other human beings, right. But even more so with animals. But to be able to ground yourself in nature and be able to communicate in a spiritual peace and calm feeling to them so that they know you're not a threat to them. And then you have the joy and the privilege and the honor of being able to observe them at close quarters, which is absolutely thrilling, absolutely thrilling. From the negative point of view, as far as talkative and verbose, I always joke with people when I give a presentation at the beginning of the presentation that my maiden name, my middle name is Gale, as in long-winded. So they're pre-warned if I continue to talk and talk and talk and talk.
Okay. So, very interesting thing that you just said about being talkative, and the metaphor that you also used is from the nature and from the animals and their energy. So to say that silence speaks volumes as well. And to be able to have that balance of what to say, when to say, and what to talk and when not to talk, and when to listen is what you're saying. And listening is a great skill. It's a great power as well. And the 7 descriptors, I'm just going to remunerate them once again. Jerry has just joined us. So welcome, Jerry. Glad to see you.
So you continue, you continue.
Okay. So, the first one was stubborn. And you unbox that so beautifully. And I would say that in the parlance of Karmaveer Global Fellowship or RX, the Mojo Ocean Spirit, or we call it focus. And to have that mill drill and the grill and the perseverance and the diligence to be able to look at what we want in life. And somewhere I would also connect your stubbornness to passion.
Yes.
Because, passion, as we unbox it, it comes from the Latin word patio or passio, which means suffering and enduring something that you love so much.
Yeah.
And I think stubbornness is quite like that, what you're talking about. And then you're talking about discoverer. So discoverer is also someone who's always learning to learn. Because as you discover more, and you go on to finding more answers and finding more learning, as I would call it. And the third, of course, you said spiritual, and spiritual intelligence, I would call it, is something that connects the world, connects the nature, is the interconnectedness to know that there is something that connects all of us. And there is something beyond material things that is more important than what we are always running after or chasing. And, along with that, at Rex Karmaveer, we also talk about spiritual intelligence, moral intelligence, physical, and, all those 5 intelligence. Jerry is there now. He's going to talk about that. And the 4th descriptor that you spoke about was industrious. And industriousness is the hard work, because you can never, ever replace hard work with smart work. That's what we talk of. And, the new word of smart work is not going to take us far, because we can never replace hard work. And this industriousness is the focal point of all things big that have come out from in the world. And the 5th descriptor you talked about, empathy and compassion. Empathy to understand what others could be going through, and compassion enough to know that, yes, I can do something about it. And walking your talk. At Rex Karmaveer, we also talk about not just talks, but ideas for action. And you've been talking about that. And of course, the groundedness, you described it beautifully. And I would like to just relate that to the nature and the work that you've been doing, that nature gives us grounding. And all your descriptors are so beautifully entwined with nature, because the stubbornness of the nature, the discovery of the nature, and this great power that nature has, it always keeps unfurling more and more for us to learn. And the last thing is that we already discussed was the silence or the talk, that we need to always be ready to hear.
Yes, absolutely. Because within that silence, that's where real discovery comes.
True.
That is where real discovery comes. Not just silence with not speaking, but silence up here, so that the heart can open out and absorb more. So yes, absolutely. And from a wildlife point of view, you cannot enjoy wildlife if you're not silent, literally physically silent either.
True,
Yeah.
true,
Yeah.
true. So, on that note, I'd also like you to just, take us through your life journey and what inspired you to write this book, and a little about, your life, and what inspired you to reach this place that you wanted to write all that you've written in your book. Share with us maybe those aha moments from your life that really led to this beautiful discovery.
So here is where, Pam, we give you 9 minutes of exclusive virtual space and stage time to tell us your life story, right from childhood to what you've been doing. Of course, it's all there written in what the biography that you shared with us, and it's on Amazon. But we would like to listen it from you in the first person. All the people who are in the audience also would like to listen to your life story and your journey of life. So it's over to you. 9 minutes of exclusive screen time of the virtual stage.
Okay. Well, I was born in America, and I was born in an area where it was relatively rural, and I was very lucky to have been born where our land bordered the heavily wooded estate of a very wealthy individual, Mr. Eisner, who loved children and did not mind at all us playing around in his woods and observing the wildlife and things along that line. So I, at a very early age, was out in the woods watching wildlife. I have already mentioned the influence of my mother in this regard, how important she was in helping me to connect with nature at a very young age. So that was so important, was to learn not only how beautiful nature was, but also taking the responsibility for animals that we had, whether they were animals, domestic animals, or on occasion, natural wild animals that had been rescued And my mother was always very careful in looking after the animals and very responsible. So she always gave us the love of nature and the love of wildlife, but also taught us the responsibility behind having that love of nature and that love of wildlife. So that was basically my beginning. And I was fortunate that I had this, not only this beautiful estate to play in and discover nature, but we also lived by a river, and I love water. I've always loved water. Maybe it's my zodiac sign. I'm Pisces, so a double fish. I always have loved water. And so we have had a river there, and I was at the river a lot, and we were near the ocean. And so I was very fortunate to have those various aspects of Mother Nature close to me too. So I was always, as a barefoot kid, running around in climbing trees. My mother gave me the second nickname of Monkey, because I was always in trees, hanging off branches of trees and things like that. So that was basically a lot of my childhood, was just spent in nature. And then going to college, I ended up in Colorado because of the nature that I saw there, the beautiful Rocky Mountains, and went to college there. But at the same time, I was inspired by both history and political science. And this is when my husband Anil walked into my life and ended up ending my life and a lot of the beliefs that I thought I had, by challenging my beliefs, by challenging them, and forcing me to research these beliefs, to find out myself what the truth was. I was fortunate I had good grades, and therefore was exempt from lower level courses and was able to do graduate work as an undergrad. So I chose the topics, everything that my husband and I disagreed about historically and politically, and chose those topics to write theses on, and do all of this research. And this is where I found out that he was right and I was wrong. So this was a revelation and a jarring experience, but it opened doors to more discovery of the truth, of the world, and what I had thought was right and found out was wrong. Then he also opened the door for me from a spiritual point of view. He is the son of a mother who was a guru of an ashram. Her guru was a follower of Sri Aurobindo from Pondicherry. So there was a deep spiritual influence from his side in my life, spiritual discovery. And that was very important as well, along with my own Native American background. So my passion and love of nature, he shared. And so we ended up going from Colorado. We had met in New Jersey, where I was born, and then he followed me to Colorado. And then after going to Colorado, we ended up in Hawaii at the Big Island, where we set up our first small wildlife sanctuary on the Big Island. And it was very, very, very beautiful. Then we ended up coming to India because my father-in-law got ill. He was at the ashram in Pune, and my husband Anil's mother wrote to him, sent him a telegram actually, and said, please come. So we both ended up coming to India, and Dad died 6 months later, and we took his ashes to Haridwar for immersion, which is the normal way of the normal tradition and cultural tradition, and fell in love with the Himalayas. Although we were quite devastated to see the deforestation of the Himalayas, but we did love the Himalayas, and there is without question a very high vibration there, and I'm not talking altitude there, a high spiritual vibration that we both were able to tune into. But because of various land sealing laws there, we could not do what we wanted to do in setting up our forest sanctuary. So my husband Anil, he was the one that came south, and he found these lands here that were deemed plantation and therefore not subject to these land sealing laws. And that's when we started the sanctuary down here. I have always actually wanted to write a book about my life. It was actually a woman who worked for us in Hawaii when she got to know us well. And she said, oh, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. You've had such a fascinating life, et cetera, et cetera. Well, it didn't happen then, but it has happened now. And I was actually contacted by the publishing house, Penguin Random House, and they asked me to write my autobiography. And so that is really how the autobiography came about, although it's always been a desire, I hope a positive desire, to be able to share our life story together, because it has been a fascinating journey and a fascinating life story. And during the course of the writing of it, it wasn't just about us I wanted to write. I wanted to share with others how important it was also to learn to respect and love and care for Mother Nature, because our future, our very survival depends on it. And the main thing is, if we love something, like I love nature, and we fall in love with nature, then we want to protect it. And so that's what I'm hoping when people read my book, that they will be inspired with that same type of love, to be able to take the quest of protecting and loving Mother Nature as well. Have I finished my 9 minutes? I think so.
Excellent, Pam. And I know your story because you are a Karmaveer Puraskaar and Karmaveer Maharatna award recipient from 2008 and then 2019. And I've had the good fortune of knowing you for a long time now.
Yes.
And my heartfelt condolences on the loss of Anil.
Thank
And
you.
I've always looked forward to meeting with him, but unfortunately it did not happen. And you have Native American roots, and some of the most powerful thoughts come from Native American wisdom. And one of the powerful thoughts, which I often quote in a lot of forums where I speak, is what the Native Americans said, that we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. And when I'm speaking to grown-ups, I always tell them that instead of teaching your children, I think you should learn from your children, because the children are more idealistic, right? And whether it was 1992 when Severance Suzuki, a girl from Canada who gate crashed the UN World Assembly in Rio de Janeiro, and said to those so-called leaders sitting in the UN World Assembly that if you do not know how to fix it, don't break it anymore, because this world does not belong to you, it belongs to us, the future generations. So,
Right.
so whether it's her or whether it's Greta Thunberg, who a lot of world so-called, and I use the word so-called world leaders, whether it's a Donald Trump or a Narendra Modi, have ridiculed and held in disdain that what is this girl talking about? But it is the children who are leading change in the world. And I connect this to the Native American thought. Any insights that you want to share on this? Because I think in our quest for so-called progress, we're actually destroying the world, because the entire concept of progress and development is about deforestation and creating more glass and mortar buildings and creating more paper money, while you're destroying the real wealth, which is Mother Nature. What are your thoughts? And are we on the same page, or is it contrary to what I'm speaking about?
No, we're absolutely on the same page. One of the things that Anil would say to people very often, business people in particular, was you can't eat your money. You
Absolutely.
can't eat your money. Even if it's
Yes.
paper money, all it's going to do is give you an upset stomach if you try to eat it.
Absolutely.
So
And you can't drink
have,
oil, you need water to drink.
yes, exactly. So we are without question on the same page. In fact, there is a concept of Native Americans called the seventh generation.
Right.
And basically, the seventh generation says that when we are making a decision about anything, we must take into account how our decision will affect the seventh generation hence. Now, we're not
Absolutely.
even thinking of the present generation, forget the seventh generation. And I do have to say, it makes me wonder at times how many people actually love their children, because they want to get them educated in the Western form of education with getting their BSs, right, double meaning there, and
Right. I got that.
and
Yes.
the PhDs and all of that. But where is the knowledge, the wisdom of how to live in harmony and balance with nature?
Right.
That the forefathers, and I'm talking the forefathers before the industrial age and all of that, and the indigenous people have done for millennia. This is the true wisdom that is going to help us. And if we can look at that wisdom, and if we can learn from nature, it doesn't mean we have to go back and live in a cave. But what it does mean is that we need to learn, number one, respect nature. That's number one, which we don't. We instead of cooperating with her, we try to conquer her. We need to respect her. We need actually to even revere her, because she is our mother, after all. We wouldn't exist without her, and we can't exist without her. And in addition, if we would learn from her, if we would observe her more carefully, for example, you were talking about the glass and concrete and steel buildings. If we were to learn from just a termite mounds that are built in the hottest parts of Africa are several degrees cooler inside the termite mound, because they have figured out how to move air currents through the termite mound to keep them cool even in the hottest days. Now, this is an example of how mimicking what nature is doing can help us live in balance with nature and help us from every point of view to save ourselves.
Absolutely, and bang on, Pamela, because I think we are not just on the same page, we are also on the same page as far as education is concerned. You know, a fellow writer, a friend, environmentalist, a person who loves agriculture, whose name is P. Sainath, who wrote the book Everyone Loves a Drought, always says that, you know, when people say they're highly educated, whether it's a PhD or their master's degree, what they mean is that they went to a expensive school or college. I qualify that a little more. And I always said most people in the world, whether it's the United States or India, are merely degreed, far from being educated. And I think one of the reasons that they're far from being educated is because their education only teaches them how to become career mules and consumers, not people who are doing something to preserve Mother Earth, because Mother Earth contains Mother Nature. And then you have some billionaires who talk a lot of nonsense just because they made some billions. Like Jeff Bezos recently said that let us put all the polluting industry into space. Well, dude, if you pollute space, you pollute Earth. So you know, it's crazy. Just because these people have a little money, they think that they know it all, without understanding that the whole concept of enlightenment is basically understanding that I know nothing, not that I know everything. So I'm very happy that you spoke about that, because you know, our entire mission as the Rex Karmaveer Global Fellowship mission now is to now take that education about how to make children into better human beings, into better citizens of the world, into schools. And we are teaching them character rooted and principle centered learning, which are life, leadership, and learning to learn lessons based on the five intelligences, which is mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical, and most important, the moral intelligence, which means that how, even while you're making profits, do you kind of care for planet and people, because you make your profits from people in this planet right? And why do you want to go to Mars and destroy another planet and colonize another planet? And that takes me back to, because it sounds like an Herculean task, and it takes me back to the descriptors that you're speaking about. And one of the descriptors that you spoke about is about being stubborn. And I can completely identify with that, and what George Bernard Shaw said, that the reasonable man adapts himself to the world. Those are all your career mules and consumers. And that's the reason you have so much apathy in the world. We are indifferent. Oh, what can I do? Right? The unreasonable one persists to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on unreasonable women and men. I would qualify that a little more from what Bernard Shaw said. So women and men and people from the LGBTQ community. And I think therein lies the plot. And I again come back to what you said about empathy and compassion. And you said, compassion is about caring for all living beings. And it is rooted in empathy, because whether it is Christianity or Islam or Native American thoughts, it's all rooted in the concept of empathy and the golden rule of humanity: do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. So if you want a earth that works for you, nature that is pristine, clean, and pure, then you need to do something towards preserving that nature and Mother Earth. Because if you're not doing that, don't blame anybody else for the way the world is. And the world is not better by any standards, because from 1992 to 2022, 30 years later, after a girl spoke in the World Assembly, the world is only more broken. And then you have deforestation, where people have even encroached into the Amazon forest. And I like the way the Bhagavad Gita, which is the holy book, which people in India follow. I wouldn't call it a Hindu book, because Hindu by default is a default word, right? Because the original concept is called Sanatan Dharma, which is the path of righteousness and truth. And the Gita says that compassion, consciousness, and empathy is understanding the pain and suffering of others without it happening to you.
Mhm.
And like you said, I connect this to the seventh generation. That do you understand the pain and suffering which the seventh generation would feel because you not left them a better earth? Yes, so you hoarded a lot of money, you hoarded a lot of land, and you left your child all of that. But they're living in a world which is neither safe nor better, and we can see it. COVID has already hit us, and Bittu Sehgal is watching in, and like Bittu always says that when climate change hits us, COVID will look like a very simple thing. That
Yeah.
it was a cakewalk. And people don't want to wake up to the concept of climate change, because they don't want to accept that there's something going drastically wrong in our world. And I understand the inspiration for your book, and because that's what inspires us to recognize real heroes and tell true stories of real heroes in our book. So at this point, Pam, let me invite you to read a few paragraphs from your book, especially probably a paragraph that you have dedicated to Anil, your late husband and your partner in crime, for what you've done in Hawaii, for what you've done in India, and created these beautiful sanctuaries. Please read a couple of paragraphs.
Well, I can read my
Please show your
dedication.
book to the audience. I keep playing the slides, but show your book. The book is available on Amazon and at leading bookstores. Pamela Gale Malhotra. And this is the amazing story of the sanctuaries that Pamela has built. So over to you, Pam.
Well, it's dedicated to my husband, and the dedication is to my beloved husband, Anil, my lifelong partner in this journey of love and devotion, the one who turned my dream into reality. May your life's work continue to be an inspiration for others to protect and preserve our dear Mother Nature. So that's the dedication. I did not pick out specific things to read as far as quotations are concerned. What I could do is read a description.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead, Pam. Whatever works for you.
Timeline on this.
Take your time.
The new day. Dusk has come, the sun is set, I look out onto the sanctuary's canopy as the egrets fly by, their white wings illuminated by a last hint of daylight. As they head north, they cross paths with huge bats flying south. The giant flying fox coming to the sanctuary to feast on the ripe fruit of the rudraksha trees. Hundreds of bats, wave upon wave, fly by. Suddenly, a single bat and a single egret break off from the rest of their group and begin circling each other like two dancers, dancing ballerinas, pirouetting in the sky. Round and round they circle together, keeping perfect distance from each other. Two species using two different senses to see, the graceful egret using sight, the agile bat using both sight and sound, as the skies continue to darken. Their movements remind me of the Taoist symbol for balance, the yin yang, dark and light, night and day, complementary opposites whose interaction gives rise to life. After several revolutions, they each return to their family groups in flight, two beings that evolved to fly and yet so different in other ways. A change of nature's guard is taking place. I'm going to skip a couple paras, if that's okay.
Sure, please go ahead.
The overwhelming beauty moves me to tears and to prayer. How long will these hills remain green? How long will these skies be the stage for aerial ballets? How long will it take for us to be the children of the divine that we are meant to be? Yet despite all that has passed, all the destruction that has taken place and continues to rage on, I must believe that life on this blue and white pearl will survive. For love is stronger than evil. Somehow, in some way, it will prevail. For there is nothing more powerful, nothing more healing than love. Do you want me to read any
Very
more?
nice,
Or is that good?
excellent, and thank
Okay.
you so much. I connect everything that you read to the life, leadership, and learning to learn lessons that we are taking for young students into schools based on the 5 intelligences. And if you would see here, this is the framework that we've created. It talks about being humane. It talks about love. It talks about temperance, about how we need to balance the consumption and the caring for Mother Earth. It talks about purpose. It talks about fairness. It talks about proactive citizenship. And what we have done is we've broken it down into 0+3 mindsets: the mojo mindset, the Josh mindset, and the inspirator mindset, 7 virtues and 21 powers. And the zero mindset, virtue, and power is vulnerability. That understand your vulnerability, because if you don't preserve Mother Earth, if you don't do something to to keep this earth sane and safe, then it's going to affect our future generations negatively. And like I always, ask people in crowded auditoriums when I'm speaking, and I'm a professional speaker, and ask them, what is the golden rule of humanity? And most people who follow some or the other religion can't answer that question. And more than that, they can't answer when I ask them, you say you're a human being, but what is the responsibility of a human being? They can't answer that. And I tell them the simple responsibility of a human being is to make the earth better than the one that we were born into. Because not because it is selfless or altruistic, it's selfish because our children, our future generations will live in the same world. So be selfish. And I always tell them that the only animal which only consumes and does not contribute to the preservation of Mother Earth is only one animal. Even the worm contributes, even the germ contributes. And that one animal who mostly does not contribute, the few do, like Pamela Gale Malhotra and Anil Malhotra, but mostly the animal that does not contribute is the human being, right? And Pam, I can go on this because I speak about this, and we come from several ages. And I always say that if we had remained hunters and gatherers and not moved to the agrarian age, the agricultural age, we would have probably been a better earth, a better human race, because we would have learned to live as one with nature. with agriculture came in greed, came in hoarding, came in usurping and amassing more land. And then, of course, industry completely spoiled it. And they say we are going into the wisdom age, but I don't see wisdom in our world at all, right? Because whether it's elected political leaders or business leaders, like I told you, Jeff Bezos or Donald Trump or Narendra Modi, they're mostly talking nonsense and not common sense, because common sense is not the currency of the world right now. Nonsense is the currency of the world. But that said, the next thing which I want to request you to do is, besides taking life leadership and learning to learn lessons into schools, we are also rolling out a storytelling competition in schools where we are teaching children how to write. And one of the things that you spoke about is about how to be a good communicator. And to be a good communicator, whether it is written or verbal, you have to be a good listener, which means that you need to research, you need to kind of put in a lot of facts uh, and ideas for action into your book, and you need to compile that book. So we are inviting young students to write stories with us, stories of real heroes who are making a change in our world under our Karma Kari book series. So in this sequence, what I want to ask you is, what is it that you would like to advise children to do about when they start writing short stories or their own novels? How would you go about putting your book together? What is the process that you followed? And if I had to kind of refer that to a process which is called The Hero's Journey by Joseph Campbell, how would you relate to this? So this is the hero's journey process, right? It's broken into 4 parts. You have the first part, which is the call to adventure. You have the second part, which is the supreme ordeal or the initiation. The third part, which is transformation. And the fourth part, the road back and the hero's return, right? And if I just had to relate this, I'm sure you read Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, right? So that's the To Kill a Mockingbird storyboard. You have the ordinary world, you know, um, Atticus Finch living with his children in a place in Alabama. They're whites and privileged, right? And then you have a call to adventure because a black man is accused of rape, and the refusal. So Atticus Finch says, if I start thinking about defending him, then things could go wrong for me and my family. And then you have that entire process. So keeping this process in mind, how would you teach young students who would be watching this part of the video? How can they go about putting their book together, writing their story, their autobiography, or stories of other heroes that they want to write about? Please share your thoughts and wisdom on this.
One of the first things I would advise them to do is to search their own heart and decide, what are they passionate about? What are they passionate about? What inspires them? What, on the one hand, you have both the inspiration aspects and you have also the disappointing or degradation aspects. So there are two ways of looking at that. If you look at it from the point of view of what really bothers you, then you have to look for heroes that are trying to change what it is that is wrong. Those are the heroes. So if something is really bothering you, whatever it is, whether it's climate change, whether it's discrimination in some form or another, whether it's pollution or the destruction of nature, whatever it may be, you have to look at that, and then you have to look for those, or create a character while you're writing your book, a character who is having to deal with this, possibly a personal experience of revelation that they don't even realize what's happening until they're face to face with it themselves. That would be one aspect. The other would be whatever inspires you and gives you hope. What gives you hope, and what you believe needs to be done. So that would be another baseline from which someone could either make a hero or write about a hero that has given them hope in a particular area.
Very nice. Excellent thoughts, Pam. And like they always say, every story has a hero, a villain, and a victim. right? So the hero could be a person, the hero could be like an animal, right? And the villain could be a person, or it could be a social issue. And then you have the victims who are affected by that social issue or that person who's a villain. In your book, who would you say is the hero, who is the villain, and who are the victims?
Okay. Well, the first thing that comes to my mind as far as the hero is concerned, this is kind of contradictory, but Mother Nature is the hero.
Right, right,
Mother Nature is the hero. Without Mother Nature, you don't have anything.
right.
So Mother Nature is the hero. At the same time, aspects of Mother Nature you can look at as the victim, but also humanity is the victim, because what we are doing to ourselves is victimizing ourselves as a race and victimizing the earth. And as far as villains are concerned, well, we are playing a double role here of both victim as well as villain. And you can't just point to one person that's made a wrong mistake and therefore nature's all upset. No, it is a lifestyle. It is something that is happening that we have accepted. And until we examine it and start changing it on our own individual level, and then working to advocate it for a change on a higher level, then we are still being part of the villain. We're being part of the problem rather than the solution. So in my book, it would be like dual roles being played, the white hat and the black hat being put on by humanity.
Right, right. And that's beautifully explained, because we are going to be the victims of a world, of a earth which is destroyed, and we are also the villains who are destroying the earth. And then it's not Mother Nature who's the only hero, it's also eco warriors like you, eco warriors like Severin Suzuki, eco warriors like Greta Thunberg, Bitu Segal, and all the people who are doing something to make the earth a better place. And like Margaret Mead said, that it is always the few who have led the change. So don't give up hope, because the many have never led the change. It is the few who have led the change. So it is those few people who are leading the change who are the heroes, along with Mother Nature. So beautifully explained, Pamela, and thank you so much for explaining that. I'm sure this will serve as great lessons for people who want to write stories of true stories of real heroes, because I think that is the need of the hour, because whether it is celebrities or businesses or political leaders, they're mostly only kind of furthering their own careers and growing up the career ladder, and becoming bigger, larger consumers who are only consuming, while it's those few people who are actually kind of being and leading the change to make the world and to make the earth a better place. So thank you so much, Pamela. Pleasure listening in to you, and I'm sure the book will do very well, because it's a true story of a real hero again. My request to everybody in the audience is to please go and buy the book, and thank you so much for joining us. Any closing words from you, Pam, before we pack up? And I would invite you to also to say thank you to you and bye to you, and thank you to everyone who's joined in to listen to us. Over to you, Pam.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor and a privilege, and another stage upon which I can help spread the seeds, literally broadcast the seeds for the love of Mother Nature in people's hearts. And I would just say, please don't expect government to do it alone.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We have to step forward. We have to do it with each other, individually and together. And don't give up hope. Don't give up hope, because
Absolutely.
wherever there is inspiration, there is hope of change.
Absolutely. And I connect what you just said as your closing insights with our passion mantra, that I change to change the country, I change to change society, I change to change earth, I change to change our world, I change to change everyone and everything, because together as one we can right every wrong. And our endeavor as the Rex Karmaveer Global Fellowship Mission for the past 2 decades almost now has been to bring together change champions and real heroes like you, so that we can democratize heroism and inspire more people to become heroes. So thank you so much, Pam, for sharing all your insights. E2, over to you for any closing insights, and then we shall close.
Nothing. It's been absolutely stellar, inspiring session, Pamela. It's my good fortune to have interacted with you and talked to you today, and look forward to learning with you and look forward to reading your book, because as you said, the interconnectedness of the nature and the spirit has to be understood, and we need to take that legacy forward for us children to enjoy it and the world to become a better place. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I need to, when we announced the Maharatna in 2019, we had invited Pam and Anil to join us, and I wish they had, because we would have had the good fortune of meeting Anil. But Pam, we plan to start the awards again this year after 2 years of the hiatus, thanks to the pandemic. And hopefully you will be able to join us and share your insights with several people this year. Okay, so thank you so much, Pam. Thank you so much, E2, for for immediately kind of rising to the occasion and hosting this, because I was stuck in traffic. So thank you, Pam, and have a great evening. What's left of it.
You
See you.
too.
Good night. Bye bye.
Good night. Bye bye.